Hello everyone, my name is Alvie and I'm making my very first video in here. And well, I must say I'm still not used to making videos, so this might not go as smoothly as those you're used to. For that, I apologize. But today I decided to share my story with the world. I think it's time. And besides, not a story for me to keep, but really for me to share. So if you clicked on this, I hope that you find something here that could benefit you. I hope I hope it does. Anyway, with that being said, I would just like to just jump right into it. Um, a few years ago, I almost died. Specifically, I was almost killed while I was at home alone with my son, who was then a toddler. Um, Thankfully, my son was then asleep upstairs. The whole incident happened downstairs. And there was this stranger who broke into our house. And the moment he saw me, he grabbed me, pinned me down on the floor. And he started taking out a knife and aiming it for my heart. So what I did was I grabbed the other end of the blade and I tried to push it as much as I could away from my heart. But then this man was really strong, so the blade got buried on the expanse of my chest. There's still a scar there. Sorry. Um. Anyway, I had 4 major stab wounds on my chest, and as I was struggling and really determined to push the weapon away, what happened was it broke. Ironically, this man incidentally had another knife which he got from his shoe. And this time maybe he was thinking he was not really lucky with my heart, so he tried to aim it at my stomach. And so the same thing happened. I grabbed on it, tried to push it away, but then it grazed my thigh, or my thigh open a few inches long. And then again, determined as I was to push it away, the knife broke again. And the whole time I was screaming, so he shoved his fingers down my mouth, and I kept screaming and kicking at the air, actually, because he was on top of me, so I was really not kicking at anything. And then I bit him, and he stood up, trying to find another weapon in the kitchen, and that is where I made my escape. I was really so dizzy going up the stairs already, and anyway, I was able to make it out of the house. But while there, my right lung had already begun to collapse and I couldn't really breathe very well. At the same time, I had to scream at the top of my lungs for my kid who was still inside the house. So while I was screaming for someone to take him to get my son from the house, I was really crawling on the road in front already. I think that was the most torturous part, not knowing what was happening inside, not knowing what was happening with my kid. And then thankfully there were these neighbors who were so brave. They went inside, they got my son out, and then minutes later I was carried to a jeep that brought me to the hospital. So the next day, I couldn't explain the feeling of waking up the next day, realizing that I was alive. Thank God I was alive. Now going back, when the whole thing was happening, um, it's true what they say, that your whole life flashes before you, and at the time, I was while I was battling the whole thing, I was just thinking of how my family would come home and find a body, not even me, just a body at home, sprawled in blood and stuff like that. But uppermost in my mind was my kid. he was just 3 years old then, and I just knew that I had to survive for him. I had to do whatever it took. So I did what I did without even knowing what I was doing. But obviously it solved the problem. And with that, I guess it goes without showing that love is still so very, very powerful. Um, and it's funny how I didn't realize how powerful it was, until that moment. That was really the epiphany of everything else, of the whole love is a very powerful thing. So I guess whatever it is that you're going through right now, um, or whoever you're holding that love for, be it someone special in your life, your family, or your kids, which is really, really incredible, or may it be just love for yourself. I think it is really important that we try to harness that thing within ourselves that God has really put in us, that we can use as a tool whenever we want to create something, whenever we want to get clear about something. Because I believe that if we really start working from our hearts, that's when miracles happen. Of course, you have to direct it properly. And also, I would like to point out another thing. So, how did I deal with the trauma of it all? Here in the Philippines, it's not very common for us to be going to therapists whenever we're encountering some difficulty or even going through traumatic experiences. Not because we don't have what we really have, what we have, like really qualified, highly qualified people in the psychological field. They're really, really. I have friends who are very admirable and really good at what they do. But then the concern here is that for most families, their priority is to put food on the table. And well, I am also a single mom, so I've been trying to make ends meet while trying to be a single full-time mom. So it's that. But I think the beginning of my therapy started, my self therapy started the moment I opened my eyes in the hospital, because the fact that I was alive and thinking that while the whole thing was happening, it was impossible for me to survive it. The fact that I was alive just really, really overwhelmed me. And it is also true that the mind is a very powerful thing. So when my thoughts were naturally drawing back to what happened, the focus I had was that, hey, this guy almost took everything away from you. He almost took everything away from your kid. And at that moment, I decided really that he had no right to linger in me anymore, not in my thoughts, not in any part of me. He took away, and he almost took away everything already, that I did not allow that person to take over any further. Like, this was my life, it wasn't his life, and this was another chance that I had at life. So I guess our minds are just like one big box, but not really, really big. So it and it's the same thing goes for our life as well. It's just one big box, and it depends on what you put inside it. What you put inside it, um, that spells out what your life could be. So same with our thoughts. So it's either I focused on the fear and kept going through the incident and kept living there and getting buried in there actually, or just get out of it and just feel really really overwhelmed. I was very thankful actually until now. I see how impossible it was that I was alive and I'm still living. And it's the simple things, you know. It's it's like your first breath of air and the first time you tasted your favorite fruit, and thinking that you might not have had a chance to taste it at all, or you might not have had a chance to be with your family. And even when my kid was, of course, getting sick after that, I was just so happy to be in the moment and to just be thankful that I'm the one taking care of my kid. I'm the one who's having all these problems and trying to solve them, because I almost did not have this chance to live and to go through the motions of life also, because it doesn't mean that your life would be perfect afterwards. So the power of the mind. So I think I just genuinely decided to live in thankfulness as opposed to living in fear. And then also when I was in the vehicle that was taking me to the hospital and my lung was already collapsing and I couldn't afford one full breathing. It was it was like that the whole time, and the hospital was so far. I was getting dizzy and cold, and there was a point when all I could see was white, and the whole time in my mind I was just trying to talk to the Lord, because the Lord for me is just like the internet to anyone. He's my everyday, he's my every breath. So you would hear me talking about the Lord just as you would any ordinary thing. And also by the Lord here, I don't just mean God. It's whoever. I respect however you would call him, however you refer to your God, source, spirit, or whether or not you believe in God. But I will go into that later. But anyway, while I was there and breathing for my life, literally breathing, half breathing for my life, I was just I was just thinking of all the things that I could have done still that I didn't do, the things that I could have done differently, and the things that I might not be able to do, and my family and my child whom I've had at not a very early age. I was just beginning to have a life with my child. And then you realize, there comes that point when you're holding on to the last straw, when you find that you just have to let go of that straw. So my final prayer was, Lord, I said, my son still needs me. But if you think, but right now I don't know if I'm going to live or die. So it's all up to you. But if you think that you could still use me now, here on earth, then with you there, please let me live. So the last prayer was actually selfless already. It was selfless even for the child that I was hurting for. So fast forward, I'm here and I'm talking to all of you. And I am hoping that you could, excuse me, sorry. I'm hoping that this story would help uplift you in a way and somehow make you see things in better perspective. Because not until our life is over is it really over. There are still things that you could do and things you could still correct, and you could still keep loving from your heart, and you could still connect that love with its source, with God. So I hope for whatever benefit this video gives you. Well, I would like to thank you for giving me this chance to talk to you. Just know, we'll go into that we'll go into the faith in God thing, just know that if you've ever felt alone, and if you don't really believe someone loves you, someone does. Um, Also, just one more thing. When I was in the vehicle, and then I didn't know if I was going to live, I still reserved one wish. I was thinking to myself that if I ever get through this, I'm going to write about it. Writing has always been my first love, but aside from journalizing and a few articles here and there, I haven't really put anything big out there. Anyway, when I did get my other break at life, and I was discharged from the hospital after around just 4 days. Yeah, 4 days, and my lung was fully repaired by then. I was already having these ideas of a book. I mean, not really a book. Everything that I wanted to say, I placed him. I just wrote them down until I was ready for it, and I didn't know if I was going to have a book, an actual paperback. But also that also happened by some miracle, um, and then just recently I was able to turn it into an ebook. So if you want to know more about the story and about the so many miracles surrounding my survival, which I figured out later on, then I suggest you grab a copy of the book. The link will be down below. Well, um, so there, I have my very, very first book, and who would have thought that the most brutal experience of my life would give rise to it? Thank you all for watching. I wish you a great day. God bless you all. Know that you are loved. Find your strength. Find your peace. Take care.